Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make over some items and we're going to start with this breadboard. I bought several of these at one time and they're not food quality, they're more for looks, and they're very thin, and I don't know, they've got somewhat of a wax coating on them. I don't think that they're food safe at all. So I'm just gonna put a stencil on this one and dress it up somewhat to make it sell, because I used to sell these real well, but now if I don't do something to dress them up, they don't seem to sell anymore. So I'm just using ink to stencil this on, or I'm stenciling it on with ink actually, and I'm using the StazOn and giving it a couple of coats just to make sure that it shows up well. And so I'm going to use black and white, so I'll be using the white ink for a couple of the lines, and then this black on these lines. So the thing about the white ink, it has a completely different texture, I think, but it works well. I just need to make sure that I do a couple of coats. And I like the look of this stencil, and it showed well on, it fit well on this, but I wasn't very happy with the black. I didn't feel like the black showed up that well. So at some point I may try to go back over that with another color, but for now it'll have to do. And I just tied a little piece of ribbon around the top and just put some greenery, since it is Christmas. That's what I usually do with my breadboards at Christmas time, is just put a little something Christmassy around the top, and that can be taken off after Christmas. Now this is just a little basket, a cheap basket actually, that I'm just kind of dressing it up some to go in the vignette that I'll be working on. And I'm using a product called Boss actually, and this one is in gray. I have it in white and gray, but I had some of the gray open, so I just decided to go ahead and do that. And I'm doing that because I'm afraid that I might get some bleed through I'm going to be using the color Buttercream here. But I was afraid that if I didn't use this product first to prime it, that I would get bleed through. So I'll do one coat of this, and then once this dries, then I'll do one coat of the color Buttercream. And I do the rim around the outside and inside top, and then I'll do the handle. And then once I'm finished with that, then I'm just using some clear wax on the whole thing. So I feel like that will kind of wake this the stain color up, and then also seal this chalk paint. So I'm just putting some clear wax on, and then wiping it right off. And then I made a hang tag to go with it, and that's all that I'm going to do to this basket. And then for the next item, I have some little stools that I thrifted, several, and they were actually new, but there's these two different sizes, and I had already gone through and painted all of them black so I would have a good distress color. And now I'm putting 2 coats of the color Buttercream. And then I'm going to be adding some stencils. I'm kind of using different types of stencils on these, and there's one in particular that I'll use with this vignette. I'm not going to be using all of these with the vignette, but like I said, I just wanted to get some of these done, because once you set up, or when you set up a vignette, it's nice to have some different layers, and these little stools are perfect to use as risers. So like I said, once I get these painted, then I'll just put some different stencils on the top, and then I'll give these some a clear wax finish. So I just put my stencils on and then let that dry well. And I did these stencils in ink instead of in paint. And it's just a neater finish. And then this is the little stool that I'll be using in this vignette. So then for the next item, I thrifted this tray, and it's a good size and it's good quality, and actually has the hanger on the back to use as a wall hanging, but I'm going to stage this just as a tray. So I'm giving this 2 coats of the color Buttercream. I didn't use the primer on this one, and I didn't have any problem with bleed through. It just didn't seem like it would bleed, so I just went ahead and took a chance and painted it without that. But it did have to have 2 coats of the color Buttercream, and I go ahead and paint the inside, although I am going to be putting a decoupage paper over the top of it. That is a decoupage paper that might show through, so I just went ahead and did 2 coats of the color Buttercream all over. So I'm using a furniture brush here because I really wanted to try to work it down in the weave of the basket, and took a little bit of maneuvering to get it in there, and like I said, it did take a couple of coats. And once I've got it covered and let it dry well, then I'm going to go ahead and decoupage this paper in. And this is a redesign decoupage paper, and it has kind of the feel of rice paper. I think it didn't feel like, well, it's actually called redesigned tissue paper, but it doesn't feel at all like tissue paper. But I do like this and it does decoupage really well. So I just cut this to fit, and then Mod Podge that in, and that is all that I'm going to be doing to this little tray. And this is actually the last item in this vignette, but I am going to be making a Christmas piece at the end of this. So I'm adding that to the end of this one. But I really like how this tray turned out. I know it's simple, but I like the look that it had. And it's a good sturdy tray, and I thought about putting legs on it, but I just decided to go ahead and leave the hanger on the back. That way it could be used for either a tray or wall decor. And then once I finished this, then I did put an additional coat of Mod Podge on the top, just to give it some extra protection. And then I used clear wax on the basket. I wanted to apologize that when I did my last comments, and so many of you were super sweet about telling me that you didn't expect me to reply to all the comments, but I really appreciate that. But I do want you guys to know how much I appreciate you for commenting, and I want you to know that I do read every comment. So I wanted to apologize because I used some very quick comments and even emojis, but I did read all of those. It's just that I was so behind that I had to just make that quick. So I'm going to try to keep more caught up, but if I do that from time to time, it's just because I've let myself get so behind. But like I said, please know that I do read every single comment, and I do appreciate every single comment. So now I am going to make a little tree. And I'm starting with this cone, and I normally don't buy the styrofoam cones because I feel like they're very pricey. But I thrifted a very large bag of different pieces of styrofoam, and there were several of these in that bag. So I felt like it was a really good value, and so that's the only reason that I have this. Normally, I would make a cone myself with cardboard, but like I said, since I have these, that's what I'm using. So I'm using some muslin fabric here. Now you could use tea towel or even Warm and Natural. And I've cut about a 2-inch wide piece in a strip like this. And you're probably going to need a few this size. And then I'm taking my scissors and just cutting slits all the way down, but not going all the way through the tube. So I glue that together in a tube, and then I cut slits and make sure that my scissors stop right where the glue is. And now I'm just going to wrap that around my tree and just kind of layer it on top of each other. And you can layer it as tightly as you want. I just want to make sure that I cover the one before in any of the place on it that doesn't have these little slits. I make sure that I overlap enough to hide that, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to glue this all the way around in layers like this until I cover the whole cone. And then when I get to that top, then I'm going to bring it on up a little bit higher because I want a sharper point at the top of the tree than this little cone has. And you'll see when I get to that what I mean. So now this is almost as far as I can go up. And after this round, I'll have to just kind of start building that point by bringing it in more. And I just kind of pinch that together and make my point. So now on that very top part, because I don't want any of that of the strip to show that doesn't have the slit in it, then I just kind of cut my slit, almost completely down to my slits on that last piece, and then glue that on. And now you can leave this like this, or you can do what I'm doing here and just cutting the loops. Now I like to cut the loops just because I feel like it gives it more of a wispy look. This is very pretty done with burlap, and you could even do this with a green burlap, and then it looks a lot more like a tree. But I'm just kind of making this one more shabby chic. So, and then I'm going to take a little skewer stick and cut it down and just stick it down into the bottom of the cone, and then I'll stick that into a can and put some styrofoam down in my can. Now this particular can I've painted in the color buttercream, and then I put a stamp on some tissue wrap, some natural color tissue wrap, and then decoupage that on. And as you can see, I'm stuffing just a little bit of polyfill down in there so that I don't see that hollow can. And now I'm going to decorate this up with some pearl accents. And these are just some pearls that I took off an old necklace. And I'm just gluing them here and there just to dress this up a little. And then I'll finish it off on the very top. Instead of putting a star on it, I'm just going to glue a large pearl to the very top. These Christmas DIYs are almost behind us because it's almost getting too late to craft for Christmas, because by the time you get it made, I just don't feel like there's a lot of time left for decorating. The only ones that I'll be doing probably is ones that can be given as gifts. And I'll still add some greenery here and there just to dress items up. But as far as crafting Christmas items, like I said, I think that's almost behind us. So now I'm just gluing some lace trim around the top, and then I'll add a hang tag to this, and this will be finished. And this particular stamp here that I put on this can, I think I purchased this at Hobby Lobby this year. So Hobby Lobby's a great place to especially to find scripture stamps, but also at Amazon. I get a lot of questions on that, but I do like Hobby Lobby's selection of stamps. And I seem to find several stamps at thrift stores, so I always watch the craft section at thrift stores for stamps. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.